3, 2, 1, go.
Hey, there we go. We got it. We got it running. We got it working. It's in here. We in it to win it. Sorry, I had a little bit of a YouTube hiccup going on there. That was frustrating, but hey, we're here. Welcome back to Debate Hub. I am your host of the debate, the master of baits, and you may notice a couple different things. The background, and for me, is a little bit different, but my D&D stuff, the Goblin, Bulbasaur, everything's there. Everything survived. I moved stuff around in my room, and you know, I'm trying to get more Puck in here. I'm trying to see if I can get him. Right now, he's in the bathroom, though. Why is he in the bathroom? I don't know. I don't have answers for you. Do I look like I'm somebody who knows anything about anything literally ever? Because I don't. You will notice also the Patreon and members have been updated as it is the beginning of the month. If you are a member or a Patreon, you will get your name added to the scroll and thank you list. Greatly appreciated for helping support this. And we are back to find out about Madam Pele and found out that track her progress a little bit and what she is up to as it is her time of the month. As well, keep in mind, we have a bunch of stuff going on the channel, so if you are not subscribed, you're going to want to hit the bell because there is a ton coming this month. I have Sam from Roleplaying coming on to talking about D&D and dungeon mastering, as well as I have Tattoo and Bones coming on as well, the lovely Trevor Vale. So that is going to be a lot of fun. And then I also have some more debate stuff coming up. I've got Jeff Holiday and Egghead coming on to talk about guns. That'll be a good time. And if you're interested in Roe v. Wade stuff, if you're interested in more political discussion, and if you're interested in like medical care and what's going on with the carbon emission stuff going on, that will be tomorrow on the Unnamed Tavern, where bring your drinks because it's going to get silly. And last but definitely not least is obviously Dumpfeck Friday. So now with all the announcements out of the way, because of course I have a bajillion announcements, Landon, Maanyaa, you're back. How are you? How have you been? And how are the volcanoes?
I have been doing quite well. I was looking forward to this one because I wanted to see what's going on with our Madam Pele, because last time we checked, she was at a healthy temperament, if I'm not wrong. She was doing quite well, and there weren't any warning signs with her. So this time we are gonna just sit and watch and see if there are any warning signs that we can look into and what to look into if you're looking into. So this will be awesome. Thank you for having me on. Here we go, Landon. Go.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on your time zone, latitude, and attitude towards Canada Day. Happy Canada Day.
Yay.
And if you don't know what Canada is about, I recommend you watch the show that has everything apocryphal relating to Canada, South Park.
Yes.
So yes, we have a good show today, and if you remember, I would recommend for those that have not watched or may want a refresher to watch the original show we did on volcanoes. I'm not going to go over the details of some stuff, but if you are confused about what the graphs and so I'm showing you and why they're important, I refer you to that previous show. If you remember, one of the themes of the previous show was that volcanic eruptions are very, very, very common. They're not the sign of the apocalypse or so forth. To say a volcano is erupting is like saying it's raining someplace on planet Earth. In fact,
run for the devils! The apocalypse is coming.
If I guess we could start the screen share, if that is okay.
Yes, we can, and we get the fancy way to do it.
Hey.
And special thanks to Benthoven for the stinger, because I love it.
Okay. All right. So can you? My question is, can you see the because my YouTube stream is delayed quite a bit. I assume.
It is slightly to. You should be able to see it now, but it is slightly.
Okay, there it is.
Everything is slightly to the right. There you go.
There it is. All right. So there are lots of volcanoes erupting. This is a resource that you can look at. they last updated on June 5th, but at that time there were 47 volcanoes erupting on planet Earth. Right now there's 51. There are 4 more that came this month. In fact, if you look at the number of volcanoes that erupted in 2022 so far, there's 63. There's 74 last year. Historically, since 1960, we've had 334, and since 1800, 531 volcanoes. So volcanoes are very common, and lots of them are erupting. Typically, the numbers are sometime between 40 and 60. Right now, we're at about 51. And so this is a nice resource here for things. Things relating to the volcano. And one thing I have to do here, I'll point out, well, there's another resource talking about the ones that the red dots that show volcanoes actually actively erupting, and you can click on the volcano and get information about what's going on, and things that are orange are about to erupt. So lots and lots of volcanoes. You live in a very eruptive planet. And so one of the things is, which countries have the most volcanoes? And it depends on, you're talking about ones that have erupted in historic times, or erupted since 1800, or erupted since 1950. So the US would lead in historic times in terms of volcanoes. But if you talk about since 1950, Indonesia has a lot. It's a very, Indonesia has some pretty good volcanoes. But one thing I want to point out here is Canada. Canada has had 24 volcanoes erupt in historic times, and one since 1800. And you might say, well, what is that about? Canada, volcanoes? Well, it turns out, yes, Canada does have volcanoes. In fact, it has over a dozen active volcanoes right now. Now, that's not erupting with stuff on it, but volcanoes that have enough of a magma chain underneath that they could erupt, and they rumble and they get steam stuff and so forth. And in the set here of stuff, for example, one of them is the Wells Gray Clearwater that had a eruption in 1550. A lot of the kind of volcanoes are in British Columbia.
Surprise! Right around like Rocky. Imagine the Rocky Mountains, the fault line there.
Yes.
Go figure.
Yes, it doesn't stop at the border. The volcanic activity goes under Trudeau's ditch and goes other way.
I like to think that people just think that at the end of the border between Canada and America, there's just a big ice wall that just prevents anything. Like, you have no clue.
Yes, I'm sure we'll learn about that ice wall in South Park at some point. But anyway, it is.
Hey,
it
what's
is
that? It's a wall. What do you got? The stuff?
And so
no, seesaws.
A lot of them are located far from civilization, which kind of this is by a friend of mine that has a really good channel on volcanoes. He does a lot of work in current eruptions of this volcano and that volcano. And so for Canada Today, he did a volcano in Canada stuff. Although I might point out, located far from civilization, that implies that there's a lot of British Columbia that isn't civilized. And some might argue with that. There's also the Crow Lagoon is another nice volcanic system in British Columbia. Huda Mountain that's had eruptions in 1750 BC, it's actually this is quite seismically active. Got lots of wiggles and so forth, even though the last lava has been there for a while. And probably the most active one is in the Nook River cones. That's had 8 eruptions in the last 9,000 years, including the last one, which is in 1904. There was actually a volcanic eruption in Canada in 1904. Now, no one really recorded it. There was some Inuit that had notion there was stuff going on, but it was even far away from their regions, and so it's got some nice, pretty volcanic systems in this area. Also in Milbeck Sound, there's a collection of volcanoes, probably the biggest cluster. And this is like a volcano in this area. You can see these sort of blobs where there's lava that came out. This is where it is within British Columbia. Here's the border of the United States, and so it's on this section. Again, this is a very seismic active region. And if you look and you zoom inside, you'll see that this particular sound, Milbank Sound Group, is actually has quite a number of them. And in fact, zooming in, you can see some of the volcanic areas, active areas. This includes a number of lava flows within this region. Now, the nearest place where there are people known is there's a small settlement about 70 kilometers from this. And so this is the area that is most likely to erupt again, given its current activity. And so if it did, the settlement that's 70 kilometers away from here wouldn't be in danger. They might get volcanic dusting, but again, it's in a very remote area, because there's a lot of Canada that is not, there's a lot of Canada that doesn't have many Canadians or First Nations people at all.
It's a lot of Canada that's just wildlife and no life.
Yes, and
There's a lot of
then
I have a
1904.
question.
rocks and
Sure.
snow.
I have a question. So the previous volcano that you were talking about, where you said that, I think so, no one recorded the eruption. Not this one,
Yeah, this
this
one
one,
here,
right?
yes.
No one recorded the eruption, but we somehow know that it erupted in 1904. How is that?
Well, a couple of things we know from the actual lava flows, and I'll show you. That's a very good segment coming into the next segment, which is that we learned about it and stumbled across this recent lava flow and said, "Wow, what is this?" And then you started dating things and said, "Oh, it actually." And then looking back, there was some reports of smoke and ash in the area, and we figured out where it came from. So people knew something had happened in a region. And the reports of people doing fur trapping and that sort of thing that reported some volcanic stuff, although they didn't know where. And it wasn't until a couple of years later that we actually had reports of it. And it so this is and this is not uncommon, particularly usually under the ocean when you have subterranean volcanoes. Sometimes they erupt, and the only reason we might know is hearing a sound propagating through the waters, or ships near the area might notice a bubbling in the ocean, or seismic stuff. So it's not uncommon for eruptions to go unnoticed. Today we have a much better notion something might be happening, although maybe not what. But let's look at let's come back to look at this business about the about noting the set. So
for anybody who wants to watch that video, it is linked down below. So if you do want to learn a little bit more about Canadian geography and Canadian volcano, not even plural, just volcano, Canada volcano.
Yes.
Go ahead and hit that link below. Oh my! Yeah. And Rez just gifted everybody 5 memberships. So because that's a thing YouTube can do now. So there's going to be new membership stuff coming down the line. So look out for that. They're going the way of Twitch. So everybody get your pucks in the chat.
Hey.
Wow. Well, thank you.
Yes.
It'll take a second. It'll catch up. Give it a uno momento.
So I guess I'd say that we often know about eruptions nowadays because of the act of monitoring of seeing seismic activity, seeing ash plumes. In the case, for example, of the volcano that erupted in Polynesia, we actually heard the sound waves circle the globe 6 times. And so but we may not know the details until later. But we can talk about historically. So let me just jump and look at this particular set. This is a bit of an eye chart, but what this is a map of the Kilauea crater. And you look into it, what we're seeing is, and this map was done in around 1980 something or other. and so it doesn't have the recent stuff. So it shows Halimau where the current thing is. It shows the old pit, not the big sinkhole that is now. And you can see in this region there are all these dates, and these are dates of various lava flows. Of, you know, in 1954, here's July 74, here's 1959, September 74. Lots and lots and lots of volcanoes, and we can tell based upon the aging of the rock and other details of how long ago it had. Now, in this particular area here, because of the volcanic observatory, we actually have records of these eruptions. But had this been in a remote island, we could have pieced together the tails of it. And you can see that many eruptions flow over to many other eruptions. And so in the case of this, you can see, there's stuff of here's 1790, and here's stuff from 1982 and 1921 and so forth. So at some point later on, the eruptions we're seeing, people will build maps and say, well, that was when it was back in 2022. So this again shows you some of the details they can get as to what the flow is, how the volcanic surface ages, the vegetation, so forth. We can pretty much tell from dating almost to the point of the month as to when it occurred. So Maanyaa, that's the answer to your question is they can actually date it back. And then if it's historic, then we can also get notions of people saying, oh yeah, we smelled something, we had ash here, blah, 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 and we can figure out, you might not know where, but then you can zoom in and find it.
There's like a lot more tools that exist now. And I would imagine that part of that has to do with just the interconnection of not social media, obviously, but a version of that, or that connectivity of the ability to share information around the world instantaneously.
Yes. And so you look at this set here, for example, in Hawaii, since 1790, and some of the eruptions that occurred there, and these various flows, and then things that are 200 years ago, 400 years ago, 700 years ago, almost 10,000 years ago. You can get lots of notions of the flows of various things. So all these colors correspond to these various dates, and they have all kinds of details about which flow it did and blah, blah, blah. So, Hawaii volcanoes tend to be one of the more well-studied.
This is a grade 6 volcano project presentation, but super advanced.
Yes,
Yep.
yes.
Hey, listen, if you're ever doing a project and you're in grade 4 or you're in grade 12, look for these videos because they're going to have everything you need to know, and just copy everything Landon says. Just word it a little bit differently so you don't get caught for plagiarism. And just, or hey, if you're a teacher, show this video to your class. We only swear a little bit. It'll be fun.
Yes.
I give you for educational purposes. If you are a teacher and you want to use these videos in your classroom and you need to download it and bleep out my swearing, go for it. Take it. Do it.
Yeah, this is PG, Pele good levels of stuff. So that's a say. Now I'll give you also the link to this particular page here. We can add this later on. This again. I don't expect you to look at this now. Just to know that this is an example of how we can look at a volcano and see things, see the history of what's where. And it's funny when eventually we get able to return back to this Kilauea crater and walk in it. I enjoyed walking in there and looking at these kind of flows. As a young child, my first exposure to volcanoes was in Lassen Volcanic National Park in the 1960s. Where as a young kid, I like to go to the visitor center where they had movies about volcanoes, and one of the things that they did, since the labs still erupting, but in 1970, 71, Kilauea was erupting, they would take pictures of those things and have that, and so I can come back to say, as a kid, I've watched this on the news, and then come back and actually see the eruption. Flowing.
We encourage trips to Pele as a local field trip.
Yes, and I want to point out that you can, this is a national park, and you can come into the visitor center. You can stay even at the park. There's a lodge there, or camping, and you can come up to the very safe areas of the volcano and look down and see this thing happening right now. It is it is the Pele tends to be a very mild volcano in terms of she's not cranky like some volcanoes can be. And it's amazing you can actually get up and actively see things. The daytime and the nighttime had some really glorious experiences. So let me go back onto the thing, talking about what's happening here. A little bit of other things that underneath Kilauea volcano is this rising plume from deeper in the mantle. And the plume sort of pushes up, builds this sort of lump, which turns into the shield volcano. And the lump has two kind of cracks where stuff moves down one side or the other or comes out the top. Right now it's coming out at the top. And if you look at the eruptions that are occurring, you'll see, for example, this is the example. We'll start again from the beginning of this animated GIF. Here is the beginning of the eruption, or the end of the last eruption for 36 years, where this lava starts pouring out and came into this area, and then it kind of stopped and restarted again and started pouring forward here. It wiped out these timeshare vacation homes and built this delta there. It resulted in the change of the volcano. So Kilauea can be actually quite active.
Does the lava follow the same path you would expect water to follow, or does it do things a little bit differently because of its nature?
It often follows because that's the path of least resistance that the water channels can guide the lava there. But lava can quickly build up a lot of material and start overflowing the banks. Unlike a river flow where there's a flood where it might spread out, lava can build these giant tubes where it starts breaking out. And so you'll see that sometimes it doesn't quite flow along the riverside. Like this business here, there's a fault line where it's easy for the magma to go down the line, and that's where it came out in a vengeance in this area. There was one of the largest lakes here used to be this old shield volcano. And that lake was, boiled away in a matter of minutes when the lava entered in it. There was a lake here, and so the people here, a lot of timeshare stuff decided it was a case. But the native Hawaiians had been long gone. They cleared out pretty fast. And so when you start looking at the thickness of lava here, it is like 50 meters thick. I mean, that's about 160 feet thick. From those that are metrically challenged, and when you get 50-meter blobs sitting in the water canyon, it overflows, right? So even though you see there's a river coming down here and starts down there, it quickly spreads out and starts putting land everywhere. So in general, yes,
very special about Landon's just lobbing of just shade and the imperial system.
Yes.
For those of you that are metrically challenged.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say that? Anyway, so moving on.
Moving on. Yes.
I didn't mean to make this a political system. So we talked about the what's happening right now. So this is a live screenshot this morning. They do daily updates on what's happening, and we can see here that it talks about that since the measurement started, there's that the crater floor has risen about 120 meters since the beginning of the eruption that occurred. So this current eruption started in September 29th, 2021. And so the floor has risen up 120 meters. That's almost 400 feet.
Oh, wow.
And it's put out 93 million cubic meters or 24 billion gallons of lava just since September 29th. And one of the things you can say is, well, right now, how active is it? And we talked about deflation, inflation events there. So it's having number of deflation events. And right now, another good thing is how much gas is coming out. 1,200 tons of sulfur dioxide per day is current rate as of June 29th. They do field measurements, and so sometimes it's lags, but we're seeing numbers between 3,000 tons and 1,200 tons. Numbers go up and down. that's giving you that's tons of sulfur dioxide.
How many washing machines is that in Americans?
I mean, that's depends upon whether you're a single or double load. And so the thing is that the volcanoes remain quite active. There's lots of gas coming out. And just so someone asked a question about, is the current climate crisis because of volcanoes like this? And the answer is no. Humans' output of sulfur dioxide is about 3 orders of magnitude more than all the volcanoes combined.
Now, is the current climate situation reflected in volcanoes? Like, do we see more or less volcanic activity due to the current climate?
Yeah, if you think about gases that are being put in the atmosphere that trap in heat that are resulting in a more energetic atmosphere, as we're forcing the climate into a more energetic state. Humans typically are about 3 orders of magnitude more than what all the volcanoes combined can do. Now, it isn't to say that on occasion you get a very big burst of volcanoes, like the Tonga eruption had a big boom, but it turned out that because most of that eruption was slightly underneath the water, the volcanic aerosols didn't get up into the air. They turned into sulfuric acid in the ocean, and so we had a very acidic ocean there, not a highly acidic atmosphere. And so far we're not seeing the eruption in Tonga creating the kind of things that things like Krakatoa did in the previous century. It did put a lot of dust in it, and so people in places like Australia and New Zealand are seeing some very nice sunsets on occasion. And so they're reporting sort of purple sunsets where it's a combination of the red from reflection from some of the dust and then the blues. I don't know, Maanyaa, have you seen some nice sunsets recently?
Yeah, I live on the west side, so maybe not, because people who are on the east side will see those more, isn't it? Because of the placement of the volcanoes and where the ash travels to and stuff. So but when I was in Christchurch, I did.
Go ahead. Yes, go ahead. Yeah, no, go ahead.
Did I dox myself? When I was in Christchurch. That's when so I would go there for training and stuff. So then we would see some pretty good sunsets, beautiful sunsets, and long days in which the suns wouldn't set till 9:30 p.m. So
sure,
so,
yeah,
absolutely
and
beautiful.
and part of that is not dust like down where you're breathing, but dust in the very high, out way up in the stratosphere, something even higher than where airplanes might be able to fly. And those dust can scatter both the reds and the greens, where you get sort of these purpley type things that are quite beautiful.
Yep. Who's even worried about chemtrails?
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
Now that being said, people in their output of gases that force the climate in a more energetic state are typically 2 to 3 orders of magnitude more in material. But does guess what else? So anyway, back to Pele. So Pele still has a reasonable amount. If the eruption were winding down, we would start seeing these numbers drop down to the hundreds, into the teens, and then kind of very little. And at some point, when they no longer are seeing seismic activity and gas output, they'll declare the eruption over. But so far, Pele has shown no signs of stopping. Here, remember we talked about tilt meters and deflation rates. Here is really last month, and you can see these DI events. Remember, it deflates and inflates, deflates, inflates, deflates, inflates. Sometimes they're only a matter of like a half day. Sometimes this particular one occurred over a couple of days. This deflation, remember, is where the magma that's near the top. Remember, we're talking about over here, this bulge that's sitting up near the top. That magma
that's considered the tip.
Yes, the tip of the set. That magma has put out lots of gas, remember we're talking about over here the amount of gas coming in, right? 1,200 tons. So 1,200 tons per day that day. But when it kind of outgasses and gets kind of stale, the rock does what it does in gravity. It wants to sink, and so the magma starts to sink down in, and even we'll see that the it's like a breathing, that the volcano is inhaling and down. But if there's still a lot of energy coming up in the system, eventually that magma that's falling will meet hot magma that's got more material underneath it, and it'll turn over. And so as it falls down, and then eventually it goes to inflation where it flips over, and the magma, the dissolved gases, comes up near the top where the pressure drops, it boils, and it goes whoosh again. So this kind of breathing of the inhale exhale, this is a sign that there's energy coming into the system. And you get some small ones, right? This is a particular short breath here. Long, short, long, long.
I think so we established last time that this was like kind of healthy volcanic activity. If that stopped happening, those depressions stopped happening, we would be like, okay, where is my energy getting released now? So you would start thinking about where's the lava coming out.
It might be
from in the chamber.
That energy might be getting released right where you think it would be. In the tip.
Yeah. And it's
my dick jokes will not be ignored.
Yes. I will point out, by the way, I am currently having cafe, Java, from a mug that was from the hallway of the Volcano Observatory, where this ash is actually ash from Pele in there. So I'm having an appropriate mug for the day. But anyway, yes. So at an end of the eruption, these DI events have become less and less frequent. They become erratic, and then not at all. Plus, the amount of sulfur dioxide coming out of the vents goes way down to the point where they're hardly able to detect it. And if it stays that way for a while, then they'll say, okay, the eruption is ended. But so far, there's no sign of that. So now, this particular DI event occurred over several days. So that's a little bit unusual that it took a longer, because normally they're about a half day. But hey, Pele is busy. And some people say, well, this is kind of a DI event. There's a little DI event there. So it's sometimes quite noisy to see what's happening, particularly if there's sort of bubbles and so forth going on. But again, so far in this month, Pele shows no signs of stopping. When we look at the distance across the caldera, this is at the top of the system, we see that the volcanoes continue to expand. So this is suggesting that there is material farther underneath that is pushing against the top of the mountain, and the mountain is continuing to expand and stretch. In fact, if we look over the 5-year period, this drop occurred when all that magma went out to the end of the volcano, where we saw those movies, and flow out, and the summit collapsed. That was the part of this collapse thing. The summit actually contracted quite a bit. This was a brief eruption in the started around Christmas time of 2020, lasted for a couple of months and stopped. And then this little blip here was the new current eruption. So the current eruption started here, but it's been going for a while. And as you can see, it's slightly climbing. So again, it's suggesting that that there's still plenty of energy, right, coming underneath. You use these sort of indicators to say there's stuff coming underneath, and the tilt's showing that it's still expanding, it's still breathing. So looking farther on it, if we look at, for example, what's happening in the map. So they have a nice map page, and here's a current map of the volcano, what's happening. And we can see here's the new lava lake here.
It's got cat ears at the top.
Yeah. I will point out with these little we come in here, these little yellow spots are islands. So remember, this is the lava that's on the floor, right? And this is 106 hectares of area that has that the creator floor has risen since the beginning of the current eruption, 129 meters. It's really filled in some of the spots now. This is the larger. This block here is a larger area within the caldera that dropped down when the thing collapsed. Remember, we showed over here with this big collapse here. This drop here is in fact this sinking area. Where why did this sink? Why did this area sink? And again, look at the size scale in terms of your 300 meters. I mean, this lava lake is over 1 kilometer across. The drop down block's much bigger. Why did this large thing fall down? Why did this thing fall down? Well, that was all this stuff happening. That's all this material coming out, because basically that's the here at the summit top here, it moved down to the end and came out with a vengeance, and put over a cubic kilometer of lava came out in this spot. That was this drop that occurred at the end. Pele had been erupting continuously for 35 years, and it kind of stopped because it all whooshed out to the end, and the lid caved in, right? And so this drop down block here used to be flat, has a result of the floor caved in. Now it's filling back in,
right?
And so, but oddly, these yellow things here are islands. So this is as usually known as Gilligan's Island. It's an island that's been floating around. It very early on, this rock blob raft started floating in the lava, right? And I guess we think it basically slid from the side. Some chunk of the side slid down into the lava. The cold rock hit the hot lava and flash sealed and basically built this raft. And there's this island has been floating around inside the lake.
So how does it not melt? How does it just not get consumed by the lava?
It's a very good question. And the best we can tell is that rock is a really good insulator. If you've ever been in a wine cave underneath where it remains very cool.
Damn it, Landon, it would be a wine cave. I'm sorry. What is a wine cave? Is it a cave of wine?
Take and store casks of wine underneath the ground for long term to try to get very temperature stable stuff, as opposed to all the hot cold stuff on the top, right? That's one of the reasons why people have these wine cellars. They used older days.
Have you been to a wine cave? Do you own a wine cave?
I own a wine cellar, but that's a artificial refrigerated thing. But if you're talking about you can go to places that are have historic wine stuff, and they'll actually have caves where they store the wine down there, because it's
it's like when I take my screen off in the winter when there's enough snow, and I store my beer in the snow that's built up at the window.
New Zealand has lots of volcanoes, lots of lava tubes. If you go down into those lava tubes, you can find places where there actually it's cold enough. There's ice in the lava tube. Again, obviously when it's stinking.
Landon's out here renting space in a wine cave somewhere to store his really good wine.
So anyway, so these little this is one of these features of these lava things, and we're kind of puzzled by the fact that the lava actually was able to that the lava didn't melt it, right? As you said, why didn't these rocks melt? But part of it is that we're also talking about the rock foam on the top, where there's lots of this pumicing, there's lots of gas, lots of insulation, and physics really does work. I mean, I have walked on top of a lava flow where if I had reached down in a crack, I could have touched lava with my fingers, having my elbow at ground level, right? Just a small amount of rock, which will hold you quite well because lava is very dense and you're quite light. So you're floating on a raft and you can bounce up and down on a block of rock, and it kind of gets springy, kind of like a chair. You can tell it's kind of squishy underneath, but
oh my god, instead of a beanbag chair, it's a lava chair. Instead of a water bed, it's a lava bed, and it's all nice and heated, and it's like gushy. Yeah. And don't tell the flat earthers it's all about density, all right?
Yeah. So dashed area here is sort of the extent of the 2021 lava eruption, right? But the lake, there's a lot of lava that comes in underneath the lake and sort of pushes at the top. The red part here is where it's actually poked a hole. It's coming out on the top on the lake.
Oh.
That's part of the set here. But lava of the lake is kind of like a blister, right? Remember, when lava comes in contact with the air, it freezes, and unless it's flowing actively, it goes from the red to the frozen state. So you get a little pond scum. So a lot of this lake here has sort of this crusty seal on the top. It's more like a pudding, right? With that little crust that forms on the top of the pudding.
That bed and that crust has got to be about as hot as my showers. If it's not burning me, I'm not interested.
Yep.
So,
and the tea.
So the overflow,
it's not burning your throat. No point.
Mm-hmm.
So the overflows are going pretty good. But again, so this continues to rise slowly, and the question is, how far can it rise? Well, at one point the crater floor is up here. It might be able to, when it goes just a little more, it'll start flowing into here. But at some point, remember, if you head down this direction through that crater and down those cracks, at some point you're going to re-enter. The lava is going to be able to melt in and re-enter the tubes that send it either to the far east or to the southwest. And so, will this lake eventually rise to the point where it flows over here? Yes, but perhaps some point the lava will melt and find a tube and start pouring down the side or underneath. But we'll see that we'll see that if that happens, we'll begin to see that through a number of means.
We're going to have one of these episodes. What we're going to have to do is we're going to have to show Landon the clip of Avatar Roku battling the volcano in that episode of Avatar: The Last Airbender, and we're going to see what they got right and what they got wrong about like the activity that is displayed by the volcano, because that would be really cool.
Yeah. Yep. So here's an example when the current eruption that started on September 29th, this was in the morning before the eruption started.
Landon, you want to zoom that in a little bit for us? Okay,
thank you.
Oh, gorgeous.
Here is so you can see in there the current, again, this is the Halemaumau crater, and the drop down block, you can see how kind of depressed, and there's a lake. And this was before the current eruption started. And then the current eruption kind of came through and flooded the lake. Ooh. There you can see Gilligan's Island pretty clear.
Cool.
Right?
This is so
and
cool.
That
you can slide back and forth. Oh my goodness.
The slider.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it shows you what the difference out there. But that shows you how Gilligan's Island really stands out. So it had been silent for a couple of months, and then restarted again, and so the lava quickly filled. But you notice how far down the lake is from the top.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So now we go back to the map. Where the map here? Now it's up pretty close to the edge, right? Because it has risen over 130 meters since this particular. Where is it? Back here. Since this thing started. I mean, this was before the eruption started, current eruption started, and there's when it first started. This first spreading over the surface. There's not because the lava underneath there was hardening. So the new lava filled the crater, and this gap between here, you see the top is up here. It's risen to the point where now it's up near the rim. From this set, and as we can see from these deflation-inflation events that are occurring here, right? She's pretty active. She's still got lots of magma turnover. This is again the blood chamber underneath turning over, in the new surges coming out, and we see the amount of sulfur coming out is still a pretty good flow. So she's not ready to stop soon, but she'll do what she wants to do. So let's look at some other stuff here. There's some pretty beautiful stuff. Like, for example, here is a case of what I call a we want to show you the summit lake growth, right? This is on June, since the start of September 2021. This is an infrared movie from September 21 to June 2022. So you see how it rose up there, and then more little spots over here and there. Again, watch it again. So it first starts off, floods the area, and you can see how it's
rising up.
Yes,
bulging,
and pushing up Gilligan's Island along with it.
It looks like a really zoomed in muffin.
Yes, in some ways, because you see, there's kind of the beginning of it, right? And we go here, it starts flowing out, but remember, because at the bottom is pretty crafty, so it has to flow on the top. And then it just keeps flowing and flowing, and you see these little edges there where it might come underneath the craft and come out on the side as it begins to fill. So people that work in the field, that are part of USGS, go in there to establish instruments, put a lot of instrumentations. A lot of field work goes into monitoring what the volcano is doing. Putting in sensors into the ground, measuring gas sensors and other material, looking at groundwater. And so they build these little spots where, again, we try to put measures in there. We work with the Hawaiian community to try to make sure they understand why these sensors are going in, what they're doing. And in fact, all the data is public, so we also help them understand. And so you go onto the web and see the data, and you can make your own decisions whether to stay or go. I'll tell you that the Native Hawaiians were pretty keen on when Pele started having that big pouring out to the very east end of the island in 2008. 2018, they were gone. They saw the signs and said, "We're out of here. We'll let them do our magic." And so with these sort of things, we share with them what we're doing and why, and the data, and they make decisions as to whether they want to stay or go.
It's certainly like a trope in movies, particular, or in media, that you'll get like the natives that live there, or the old guy that's been living there for so long, and he's just like, "Nah, no way, never. I'm not going anywhere. I was born here and I'll die here." When in reality, it's usually the opposite. It's the stubborn people that don't live there. They're like, "No, we know what's going on. we'll be back.
Yeah,
in a couple days."
Yeah, it's the people who have the timeshare that come in and do stuff. I remember.
Just take advice from Ben Shapiro. The lava flowing. You can just sell it. It'll be fine.
What?
Did you not hear that?
Oh
God, a year or two ago, when they were talking, he was doing some kind of press thing or some kind of talk thing, and Ben Shapiro had said, because people were talking about the rising of the ocean level and talking about people who own condos or whatever along in Florida, saying that they're going to be underwater, and he's like, "Oh, you could just sell it." Everybody was like, "To mer people? What are you talking?
Who will buy a piece of property that's going to get demolished in the future?" Oh my goodness!
Or is literally at that point underwater already, because that's when he was talking about. But sorry, Landon, go on.
No, he's gonna sell it to Jason Momoa, because he's Aquaman, and to other Atlanteans.
Can't sell it to Amber Heard; she gonna be broke.
Nah, she gonna poop in it.
So with this particular thing, this was the May, the end of the May eruption, 2018, when it was coming out, and I went. I'll show you when back here. So we were stationed. We went and stationed around here into this estate area, right? And it was about when the lava was flowing out. Let's see. Wait for it. It came and zoomed down here. And it was right about there, right? That we put sensors in front. When you want to understand what the nature of the lava coming out and where it's boiling, and so you put instruments in front of the lava flow and have them send out wirelessly the data until they get consumed. And so you land by helicopter down here. You have people monitoring the volcano, monitoring the quakes, making sure it's safe. You have 3 different escape routes. You have a second helicopter there on standby just in case. And part of the protocol when you're in front of a lava flow, there's a team lead and someone on a mirror communication that'll say things, give you direction to where to go. And one of the commands is drop and leave, right? It literally says, take it or you have, drop it on the ground, and go back to the spot because we're leaving right now.
Yeah.
And so we got a drop and leave because the lava was coming around the side. And one of the protocols then is you count the people to make sure that the people coming on the helicopter are the number of people that left. And just in case there's a count thing, you then do an infrared scan across because maybe you miscounted and you don't want to leave someone behind. And so we did an infrared scan, and over in this area here, we saw somebody. They initially it looked like the person was peeing, urinating in their backyard. Okay, the infrared, but it turned out they had a fire hose. They had a hose. And that wasn't too far away, so it was like behind a tree. So we went over there and said,
"Bro,"
the thing that said, "What are you doing?" And it says, "Well, I'm going to stop the flow." Right, the lava was kind of on the previous neighbor's house coming his way. And he had his hose out there to kind of hose it down, right? He's going to stop the flow because
brilliant.
And I remember I walked up to him because we had the call was and then the call came over and said 3 minutes and 45 seconds to take off, which means that's how much time you have to get to the helicopter. And so I said, I told him, I said, if you stay here, you will die. No, I'll hose it down. And I said, the ocean doesn't stop, Pele. What makes you think this hose is going to do that? I got it in his face and said, if you stay here, you will die. I'm going to make sure he got it. And said, well, no, I'll take my chance. Okay. I turned on and walked, and he could see the lava coming his way, and we're heading toward the helicopter. And I guess something got into him, and he, as the helicopter was getting ready to lift off, he came running there to jump in. We flew over his house to watch the lava basically burn it away and so forth. Again, it was like he wanted to save his fraction of the timeshare. There are some Hawaiian terms which are not polite about those kind of people, but
hold on, I got one.
This guy is unfucking believable.
But that was an effective thing of getting in front of his face and saying, if you stay here, you will die, right? In front of his face. And he didn't, he left. And he probably was about a minute from being consumed by lava. So. And it pissed off because it put us in danger trying to get this dude out. We would have been out there.
Well, you got in danger twice, because the first time when you went out to go get him, and the second time when he was rushing to get back to get on, and you guys are holding there for him.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But the protocol was, he was about 5 seconds from being left behind. Again, when the pilot takes off and they're going, they don't sit there and have all thermal events and have the solid oxide coming into the rotor and so forth. I mean, they would have left his ass behind if he'd have been 5 seconds late.
We
would not have been safe for him to go and pick us up.
We are almost at the 1 hour mark. I want to know how everybody's feeling, because I tend to like to give the audience like a quick 2 minutes. How do you guys feel?
I can give you just a few more pictures.
Yeah. No. By that I mean let them go pee.
Do you want to go? I went before.
Do we want to let the audience go because they don't know, or do they suffer?
Yeah, I guess number 1 if you need to go number 1, number 2 if you need to go number 2, or number 3 if you are a bot and have digital output.
Vote in the chat. All right, let's keep going.
Number 1, number 2, or number 3?
Landon?
I hear bio break. So yeah, they promise not to talk about volcanoes when we do the bio break.
All right. We'll do a bio break. We will be right back, everybody. We'll see if the Debate Hub logo actually stays up this time, because I might have actually fixed it. So we'll see. Wish me luck.
Ooh.
All right.
All right. I'll do a bio break.
Same.
And we are back. Hi, guys. We made it. Everybody made it back safe and sound. Sadly, Puck is now hiding in the bathroom because it is currently, well, it's Canada Day, and it's Friday, and the fireworks are starting. And I mean, it's still pretty, you can see the window. It's still pretty bright out there, but they're doing their test fireworks and stuff, so he hates fireworks. So he's currently, poor Puck is hiding in the bathroom, but, you know, he'll be all right. He'll be all right.
We had we have this nice 180-degree view of the Canadian Cascades and Abbotsford over to Vancouver, and they say that we should see somewhere between 2 to 3 dozen fireworks shows tonight. And part of it also is Americans doing the early 4th of July, and Canadians, they also will do a bunch of 4th of July stuff too. So it's kind of it's a generalized blow stuff up day.
There's actually been talks about banning and lessening the fireworks so that way they're far more regulated. They're already more regulated in Canada. There's been word about, depending on the city you live in, like local governments, this isn't a federal or a provincial thing, just local governments making decisions to lessen the amount of fireworks.
Yeah, I'm amazed at the number of places that have it, if they're assuming they're regulated. I don't know if they are. But we sort of have this view of noting where stuff is in terms of angles. And I mean, some of it is probably private, some of it is little towns and so forth.
You can tell when a professional's done it versus not.
Yes, that's true.
So, where were we?
Well, we were about ready to show you a summit collapse, or a collapse that fell of stuff falling into the lake that occurred on June 15th.
Very cool.
By the collapse, we're talking about this edge. So here, if we're back to this spot, we'll expand it a bit. And let's watch this little movie here. So there's watch on the edge over here. You see that the lake sort of boiling, lava lake sort of boiling away.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden,
And I was
a bunch of stuff falls in. See, it falls in on the side. And some rocks tumble into the thing and creates this little wave that then goes across the lake. This little lava tsunami.
Oh, wow.
Oh, Maanyaa, you're not muted in Discord. You accidentally turned your mic on.
My bad. Sorry.
And so the distance we're seeing about 30 meters across this little section here.
Wow. That's amazing.
So that's, again, this little section here, you see it falls in, rock falls in.
Yeah, it goes
and when the rock falls in, yeah. And basically disturbs all the bubbles in it and all that. Basically, it's like a pot, pot of pasta boiling, and you go stir it up and it goes whoosh. And you can see the wave going across the pond. So
Vulnerable Blade wants to know if, Landon, you know who Harry R. Truman is. I don't know who that is.
Yes, he was a very cranky person that shot buckshot at me. What? Rock salt. And because he believed that when we were there trying to understand what Mount St. Helens was doing, he thought we were there to take him off to, we were government people taking him off to a rest home.
Oh.
So if this is supposed to be a polite show, so I will just say that I don't. I'm sorry that his cats died. He had some really nice cats there when the mountain erupted, and those cats didn't deserve to die.
But
if I take a dim view at people shooting at me,
that's fair. That seems fair.
Let's leave it at that.
Shot at you. He shot at you. Is that what you're saying? Like, yes. Shot at you, like took a gun and oh my goodness.
Well, no, what he was doing was using shooting rock salt. So it was sort of, the kind of
like a potato gun.
But still, it's gonna hurt, man. Rock salt can hurt you, like a good chunk, like big chunk.
And if there's a large enough chunk, it can penetrate the skin. So anyway, that's a different story.
Yeah.
Back to yes. So yes, I painfully know who that person is, and he's gone. So, but his cats didn't deserve the fate that the cats had.
I see the point you're making by specifically mentioning their cats.
Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit of a thing because the mythology that's being trying to be developed at the Mount St. Helens area runs up against. I mean, I know how history is going to be done. They will a century from now talk about this person heroic stuff. In fact, there were some, some of the people that are dumbasses that say, "Don't tell me what to do. I'm going to be here. Blah blah blah. I can survive myself. I've been in these woods." Blah, blah, blah,
Oh, I'm just going to remember this guy forever as guy who shot at Landon the balls.
Yeah. No.
Oh my God.
Enemy number one.
Well, let's move on. No one
hurts Landon on my watch.
So there's this little lake here. Remember this spot here. If we go back to the maps, let's see where the maps are. Maps. That's what this section is, right? So if you look at the distance here, this is about over 100 meters across, right? So when we talk about this particular flow here, this is a section over 100 meters across. Now, in this particular case, why was it sunk down in? Well, we were currently in a deflation at this point.
Oh,
the magma and lava up here was kind of stale. It had lost a lot of its oomph, and so it was in a process of sinking. So that we were in that section of the we're in a D section down here. It was deflating.
Well, remember, if you're not dense, you're light enough that the lava will be denser than you. But if you're dense enough, you can run on top of it.
Yeah. And if you notice, that where it is, even at this stage, there's the air is causing the lava to freeze and creating this spot. It's only kind of at the edge where it's boiling, so forth, you get the red bits.
Oh, geez.
And here it is a larger scale. There's that section. It had been gunned to inflate, so it isn't quite as low. But again, here is that lava lake that's over a kilometer across, and again, you can see it doesn't have much to go before it starts spilling into this sort of second drop down area.
Sometimes it's really hard to tell the scale on some of these pictures. And even when you put the scale in the corner, sometimes it's just really hard to wrap your mind around how large this actually is.
So, Landon, did you say it's 100 meters across? Is that what you said?
Yeah, this section here is over 100 meters across. It's probably about 120 meters across.
Okay, so like almost a cross section of a swimming pool, you might say.
120
or more than
meters?
That.
It's more like this is more like a.
Yeah, that's
more
what
like
I'm sorry.
A soccer. This is like multiple.
A soccer field. Yeah, sorry.
How
my scaling
long?
just went out the window.
How long would it take Usain Bolt to go across?
Yeah, that's a good measurement.
maybe about 12 seconds.
There you
go. But again, so here's the thing. This is in this larger kilometer size section of stuff. Remember, this was the stuff we saw. This sort of bread sort of rising.
I need to ask the chat just while we go here to think about this and tag me on Twitter with your best answer. What is the imperial version of time? So we know that there's like feet and inches. So like what's seconds to a minute in in imperial?
Let's hear that.
As shakes of a lamb's tail. That's my submission.
So one thing that kind of happens on the lakes is you get these sort of temporary features, right? The main activity is going on in another spot. So this is zoomed into another section of the lake, and you get these sort of vents where stuff is outgassing, and along with the outgases, bits of molten rock that kind of congeal and get these little degassing. They're called hornitos, HORNITOS. Right, hornitos, and this is you get gas with volcanic stuff that kind of plates on the edge and basically builds up this little crusty bit. These are very short term because they tend to be very fragile.
So is that up? Is that like a rise that's cracked open like a triangle?
Or it's a hole.
Pyramid?
Right? Yeah, when you saw kind of a pyramid thing or a vent, sort of mini vent.
Yeah. It's like popped open.
Where it's really, relatively thin, and then the it might spider a bit, but also the gas might then carries a lot of minerals, and minerals might plate out or freeze onto the edge and build this little event. The lava lake we saw is over farther away from the spot, but this is sort of focusing on these little vents there. But they will then, particularly in the next deflation event, they might collapse in, or wind might knock them over. They tend to be very fragile. But at the end of the eruption, when it finally ends and you can go down there, some of these things can be quite beautiful in terms of colors and interesting bits. Again, we're talking about this section here. That was a part of the collapse, but there's all little vents over these little spots around the edge. And these are a couple of pictures of it. So when you go there, take some good binoculars and go out and check out some of these spots, because they kind of come and go and do interesting stuff. You can see here's a flow a couple of days prior to that came out in this section here. It just kind of comes and goes.
Go pick yourself up the flat earther camera of choice, the Nikon P1000.
Yes, here's another spot. So this flow here was here, right? This came out and did a bunch of things. And again, this is a very typical stuff in the daytime. At night, I think it's better at night, because now you'll see the glow of these cracks become quite visible. The daytime, it sometimes gets washed out, but at nighttime, the glow is actually quite gorgeous. And you can see little spots where it breaks out. Remember, this is you got all this pressure underneath, and it kind of oozes out. It starts off with a little bit of a ooze out, and then it'll turn into gas, and when those hornito things, and the collapse thing will collapse. It's very, very active active lake set. So that's that which was doing. This was just on June 24th. Little breakouts here and there.
I wonder how many lava levels in games like take from these kinds of images and take from these kinds of areas, because I very much a lot of this makes me think of basically the Mount Doom of Zelda.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What's the big mountain called? Death Mountain. The big Death Mountain that where all the Gorons are from that are starving because they eat rocks, and even though they live in a mountain, they have no rocks to eat. I don't know. Point being, like in Breath of the Wild, like you get to explore these areas, and this there's basically like what I would call it as like a minecart area in something that looks almost exactly like this.
And when the eruption finally ends, and you're able to go down and walk on this stuff, these features, whatever is on top, will be quite beautiful features there. It's quite fun to see.
Are you telling me you can walk over there?
Well, eventually. Right now, this not only are these things called ooze outs. That's what they're called. Weak zone or ooze outs sort of imply that there's places where the stuff can start breaking out. So, and the other problem is that there's a lot of volcanic gas down here, so you wouldn't be able to breathe.
Yeah.
Birds that make a mistake of flying down near there could get overcome. And
we're seriously gonna have to get Landon to go over some like cool volcano levels now too. So we're talking about TV shows, movies. We're gonna get him to look at Mount Doom and be like, how accurate is Mount Doom from Lord of the Rings?
Yep, that will be great.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, lots of ooze outs again. This was on the 16th, the 20th, 24th, and there lots of little stuff going on. Lots of earthquakes going on.
Right.
Here's Kilauea volcano. Here's the top of Mauna Loa. This big section here is a bunch of deep quakes where remember we have this picture of stuff. Where is it? Rising up towards the surface. Right. So when we go to look at the earthquakes, this is that area where the stuff is rising up towards the surface, and we get lots and lots and lots and lots of quakes. This is in the last month. There have been 532 earthquakes recorded. 15 of them were between magnitude 3 and 4. It's hard to detect a magnitude 2 if you're standing on top of it, but 3 or 4 you would have noticed. So like 15 quakes the last month you would have noticed. If we go to the last 2 weeks, we find still lots of stuff, again, suggesting there's still lots of material coming up with deep quakes. Last 2 days, one of the things they put is that Mauna Loa is got some quakes up near its summit. Eventually, Mauna Loa is an active volcano. Eventually, it will erupt. But right now, Kilauea seems to be taking taking the show. So far. Or as Hawaiians say that Madam Pele is in the House of Ferns, but someday she may walk up to the top of Mauna Loa and erupt there. And when Mauna Loa erupts, you get huge volumes almost to the point of wiping out Hilo. It stopped just short of hitting the town of Hilo. Kona's over here, Hilo's over here. And so people are watching Mauna Loa. It is only on sort of the caution level right now, under advisory, but we still see quakes there. It's not quiet. It definitely has a chamber there, but Kilauea is again much more active.
Does this how heavily does this tend to affect like the locals' insurance policies and infrastructure? Because I imagine like if a town gets hit, it's devastating.
Yes, and the other thing is that the utilities get quite wiped out.
We don't care about the weekenders that are buying their timeshares. I'm talking to locals.
But in this area here, there was actually a lot of this. See this thing called the PGV. This was a geothermal plant that was supplying lots of power to the island. And it got a little bit too
spicy,
a little bit too thermal, right? And so by this time, it shut down and so forth. It had been because again the lava coming here and coming down to the ocean, and then there's an eruption stopped, and the magma pushed through even farther, and then came out here. Now, it's been there before. Here's a 1960 eruption, 1955 eruption, 1840 eruption. So it isn't as if it hasn't done this before.
Right.
It's just that the non-natives tend to build vacation homes and other things in these estates, and so this vacation land, Hawaii. Some Hawaiians call this very offensive. This used to be a really beautiful place where turtles.
Oh yes,
there was a rare bit of turtles, and in fact, I got to honor of swimming there. If you're very polite, very discreet, they would let you come to the area and then go out and snorkel and swim with sea turtles. Of course, that is gone now. That old called boiler because the lava basically went out here. Because if you watched this thing happening, right, it went down the fissure and it went boop 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 and wiped out, and so there's no longer any bay anymore. But this bay used to be the place where the kings and queens of Hawaii would bathe. It was a sacred area that only the elite could go, and they built a bunch of vacation homes. And as Sotowayan said, this was a case where basically a bunch of drunk college students would basically terrorize the place, and the natives would leave because in spring break it just gets kind of insane. And now it is lava. So people, the claim is Pele took care of the problem.
I mean, it's not inaccurate, to be fair. So they tend to be a little bit smarter about where they're vacationing, or where they are, if they're locals, where they're building more permanent-esque settlements. So hey, if you're looking for looking to buy real estate in Hawaii, pay attention.
By the way, Hawaiian law says that the new land that's created is public. So if you had beachfront property here, you lose because your property is a couple of feet below the rock. In the case of the thickness here, the rock was about 50 meters thick in this area. So you own below the rock, and all this stuff is now new public land. Your land rights, you got rock way down there on top of a bunch of, and given how thick it is, there still is liquid lava down in this section, right? So essentially you lose. Now, I have a good friend that had a homestead in this region near this area, and he he left, long before when they saw the sensors. You saw earthquakes here, and gas started showing up in this area, and the Hawaiians said, okay, time to leave, because they were watching the same stuff we did, and they basically said, hey, something's happening around here, and they were gone. So this gentleman left. His house is wiped out, but he feels that he was blessed by Pele because he had enough warning signs that he left. He left with his family, with his dogs, his cats, and his chickens. They took all the stuff out, and basically the shell of his home was wiped out. But he came back, and I have a picture of him leaving a bottle of whiskey in front of the lava flow, thanking Pele for letting his family leave. And in fact, there are a bunch of Hawaiians that wanted him to come to their land, like there are people, and there's a family that basically gave him the back side of their property, saying, "Please come here," because in Hawaiian terms, he is a special person. He is someone that Pele.
He's been blessed.
Yes,
he's been blessed,
and
by
it's
Pele.
good luck. And they say, yeah, we know it's a volcano, but it's considered a high honor to have a person like that living on your land.
I mean, I can't even say I'm against that. That is basically social economics of people helping each other out and respecting people who may have lost some things, but not have lost their families, and that and being respectful enough to say, like, hey, you were smart enough to leave, and so we want to make sure that your two brain cells that you can rub together, you have a place to stay. Because those are the people we want to survive and reproduce. So there you go.
Yeah, that too, you know, evolution. And that's also about replacing what they've lost. So they lost a house. And that's a significant investment when you build a house. So you want to, and if they survive, you want to make sure, and even if they were survived by their children and stuff, they made sure if their children were safe, if not themselves. You want their children to grow up, with some stability, and a stable environment. So people thrive when they have stability. So you want to give them that chance, again, and
Yes.
and spread the blessing, as they say. Yeah.
Yeah.
Share the blessing.
Yeah, and there is this notion of that. So his status rose in the community, and at the same time, there's a lot of stories where this legend sort of goes like this, where there was this village, and this old lady came by and asked for some water, and they said, "Oh, get out of here, lady! Stop bumming off of this. Go bother someone else." And so she went to another village where she said, "Can I have some water?" And said, "Yes, ma'am, you can have some water, but we're also cooking some food. Would you please, do us honor of bringing this fish and so forth?" And they served her a meal, and she thanked them and went on her way. Well, that of course was Pele, and there was eruption in the inhospitable, the village that wasn't nice got wiped out, and the village that was nice, the lava went around, or they were spared. And so there's this notion, a lot of you see in Polynesian cultures where
Hospitality.
Hospitality, especially if you feed somebody, is a very, very high status. Now they expect, if you're there, to behave, but for visitors, they're very present, very tolerant. And so if you were to go to this person's estate, he would tell you the story about the eruption and the lava and so forth, and would be very willing to share with you, so some of his finest food, and papayas and apple bananas and all kinds of yummy stuff. There he's quite he teaches his children about this sort of thing, and so they're
Right.
Stuff. And he gave Pele some really, really fine whiskey from Seattle, it turned out.
Oh.
And but also when they offer things, this Hollywood thing of virgin sacrifices, no, they don't do that. They take things
Thank
of
God.
value. And one of the things is that before the bottle was left, they didn't take this bottle and throw it into the lava. They took it to lava and basically served it around, and the people who were standing around it got to taste the really good whiskey, and it really was quite fine whiskey. And part of it is to show Pele, we're not giving you trash, we're giving you the good stuff, and we're sharing it with you, right? This is Pele personified there, participating in the group stuff. And so I got to taste this fine whiskey. The bottle was only about a third consumed by this 2,000 people around there. The bottle was set near the flow. Eventually it was consumed, and Pele got to partake of it. And again,
damn, she must have had a good night.
That's the point.
She had the whole thing. She had the whole
Yeah.
thing. She must have had a good night.
I will point out that in this area is a bunch of medicinal herbs or snacky cakes that are grown, allegedly, and that I could tell that these herbs were being burned by the lava. The smoke of these herbs was allegedly in the air, and Pele had a really good smoke from that stuff. So there was a bunch of stuff in this area, allegedly. That's one of the things.
Pele's got the best life. She's getting the best whiskey. She's getting the best weed. She's getting the best water, food everywhere she goes.
Yeah.
Like, she's got the best. Like,
she deserves
she's a goddess.
She deserves it.
Of course she deserves it. But I'm just saying, she gets the finest stuff.
Healthy respect, however, that's the other thing, is that
yes.
That says various things, but again, it's really is kind of fun to see how it's done in the culture. Again, they'll say, yeah, we know some volcanoes and lava and so forth, but one guy told me, you guys got your Santa Claus and your Tooth Fairy. We have our Pele. So
yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with tradition. There's nothing wrong with culture. They're not throwing people into the lava. Like, there's such a thing as like a healthy community stories to help children, to help the community be a better place. Like, this is not a toxic type of caustic problem. This is something that helps these people, live in their day-to-day lives, and that's
just imagine if you come to this community and you visit them and they're nice to you. You'll go out and talk. Yeah, they were nice to me. So that message goes out, and when you meet someone from that community outside, you will be like, oh, I heard this about you. So it's about that, that spreading that good cheer and that reputation, It's funny when we do our risk assessments, a lot of companies, they take into account these things. Reputation in times of crisis is a very, very major thing that they are worried about. So in this pandemic, when this happened, our organization was very much worried about the reputation of whether they're paying their employees well, they're treating their employees well, and all that stuff. Whether if they're going to introduce any new policies and stuff, are they in regards to COVID, are they consulting with the employees or not? Because immediately the word gets out and the activists kind of know, oh yeah, this company's not treating their employees well. So reputation matters, and it travels quite quickly. We have seen that in Johnny Depp case also. Like you said, like a seismic, activity just went all around the world. So reputation matters, and how you can get that is by being nice to people.
Well, I mean, and you see people threatening that kind of thing too, right? You'll see people that'll say like, "Hey, listen, you're never going to work in this town again." And sometimes that's valid, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's over something that is not reasonable, right?
So that Polynesian hospitality is very common throughout Polynesia. I mean, the Polynesian Triangle, the northern tip is Hawaii. Basically the southwestern is New Zealand, and the southeastern is Easter Island. That big triangle is sort of defined as Polynesian, and the peoples in the area have very similar languages. They have very similar terms for volcanoes, very similar traditions, because there were a lot of migration. I mean, the historic records show that Polynesians first arrived in the Hawaiian Islands probably around 12 to 1400. And so they share a lot of similar traditions there. And I've had really great experiences with Maori in New Zealand, right? Where being a little bit respectful, and then they feed you, and you have a great time.
Food is such a big deal.
Absolutely. I had a wonderful time on Guy Fawkes Night with a bunch of Maori celebrating. I think they were celebrating or commiserating that he wasn't successful, but that's a different story. But we had a great bonfire and
interpretations. Yeah. The thing is that if you ever come to New Zealand, try hangi. Hangi is a traditional way of cooking meat, and it's like it's awesome. And they also
the fish as well.
If you yes, the fish, yes, awesome. So when you come to New Zealand, taste the food, but also visit our geothermal parks. So they're beautiful, and you can taste the food there, how they use the geothermal power to cook food and stuff. Like they use steam, and so it's awesome. It's wonderful, and you can go and visit their mud pools. So I don't know if they have medicinal properties or not, but it's a good dip in there.
It is. Yeah. It feels nice. I would say it feels nice.
Oh yeah.
And then they'll build these pits down near the hot rocks. They'll line the pits with these herbs and these tea leaves with stuff wrapped in it, and then start putting the papayas and the guava roots, and on top of that they'll wrap the fish in these leaves, and then wrap a pork or a pig on top of it, and then cover it up and let it smolder for a day while they dance and sing and have a good time. And it's wonderful, right?
And when it comes out, it's like heaven.
Oh yes, it is excellent. So on the other hand, the other thing I say is that if you all of a sudden say, I want to live here, then they sit you down and say, okay, if you want to be here, you need to learn traditions, you need to learn respect, you need to learn behavior, and they will somewhat tolerate a tourist misbehaving or misrespecting. But if you want to live there, you need to learn societal behavior. And you'll see another side of Polynesians that if you say, I want to live here, but I don't want to follow the rules,
It's the Caesar Milan technique.
Yes.
I mean, I've been working on a video like that. It's basically about, can you take Caesar Milan's psychology of dogs and apply it to humans? And you'd be surprised. Almost all of it is entirely applicable to humans. There's one thing that is not, and it is just the order of events. Because dogs go nose, eyes, ears, I think. Whereas humans go eyes, ears, nose. Like, nose is not... I mean, if somebody smells bad, it's going to be a problem, but it's not as high on the priority list.
We depend on our eyesight a lot.
And to be fair, people are bad at listening. And to also be fair, if you stank, you're going to have a bad time. So people aren't going to want to interact with
Talk
you.
to you,
if I
not
can
sit down with you.
If I can, I don't care if you smell good or if you smell bad. If I can smell you from 5 feet away, something is not going quite the way it should. That's too much for me.
Yeah. I've had to say, when I go there, I make it clear to the people that I'm a visitor. I don't intend to live here, even though I might show up on occasion. Because again, behavior of people living there is different. And they'll say something like, if you were somebody who was being obnoxious to people, not being hospitable, not showing that Polynesian sensibilities, they would say you put the village in danger. Right. That the benefits they have is because of their society and because of the way they work with land and live with land. Right? And if you're somebody who's creating a problem, the kind of thing is that village that was mean to the lady lost the village and people died. Right. So they will they'll almost say essentially you're putting our way of life at risk. Yep. You being a jerk puts us at risk, and you'll find that they will enforce the social contract very, very effectively. So don't think that this nice behavior gives you an excuse to behave like an ass.
It's like going to a local bar. If you're a regular at the bar, you know the social expectation and the social etiquette of that bar. Actually, that's what we're going to be talking about a whole bunch when Tattoo and Bones Trevor comes on, as well as Sam. We're going to be talking about table etiquette. Because if you're going to join in a social group, you're going to join in at a D&D table, you're going to go to a local bar. If you don't know or understand what the rules of that bar are, and you insult one of the waitresses who's like a regular's niece or something, you're going to get the crap kicked out of you, and you're going to deserve it. So, like, that's understanding these kind of social hierarchies is a must if you're ever going to become a regular and live in these spaces. Yeah.
I want to just give you a last bit of thing before we answer questions on there. Just
yes, if you do have questions, if you have questions, get them in now. Please tag me so that way I can see them.
I'll ask the first question. So
wait,
far,
not yet. He's going to his last thing. We're not at questions yet.
His last step. But here's
got it.
Zoom in a little bit though, Landon.
Let me go here, and then I'm going to loop. So this is a live picture of that particular fissure again. Let's do an update. That was at 8:31 local time. Let's do an update and see what happens. And that's so you can see it filled it a little bit, and this filled in here.
Wow, it opened up a new pool, isn't it?
Yeah.
It kind of
this is kind of cracking here.
Yeah. I'm seeing at the top. I'm seeing at the top like that whole new pool that opened up. Is that a new one or is that an old one?
Yeah, that just happened in the last hour as we've been chatting.
Oh wow. Dang. Pele be like, so watch me.
Yeah, she's moving in. Here's another spot here. Again, it's a little bit smoky because again you're looking through the VOG. VOG is volcanic smog, right? It's the volcanic gas. And so if we look at we do a thing and do a reload here to what happens. There it is. Okay, you see that? Now it cleared out, and you saw that move out pretty fast. Let's look here. Here's a wide angle thing. One of some hornitos, other things here.
I love wide angle shots. This is awesome.
Right.
And you can see the gases escaping and everything. Nice. Yeah. So the birds can't fly over this thing, right? They will just drop dead.
Well, they tend to, it depends on how the wind is blowing, right? Particularly because the wind seems to be coming from the lower right to the upper left. I imagine birds that go down into here might have a harder time breathing than birds over here, but it kind of depends. The birds that are smart tend to stay away from this stuff. The ones that are dumb don't breed. Okay, so here is it. Here was at 8:30. Let's reload it and see what happened. And there it is. Okay, so the wind has changed a little bit. This guy's got a little more active. This got a little active here. This guy started up here.
Yep.
And there's a little bit of oozing out in this spot. Again, this is lava, right? This is lava here. This is what lava looks like in the daytime because it crusts over very quickly, right? So we got a little spill over here, spill over there. There's Gilligan's Island. So let's look at another set here. So here's a thermal image looking into that spot. Remember, this is that segment over, where was it? Come back. Yeah. So this is this segment, but from a different angle in a thermal camera.
Yeah.
So that shape,
That's
right? And you saw the beginning of looks like stuff coming out here. So let's look what happened in the last hour. And we see now it's actually much more active here. This is now hotter.
Up.
So materials here, and then this kind of rose up and kind of split into that section for the last hour. Finally, air quality. I mean, there's a lot of gas coming out. There's these gas sensors that they monitor at various spots, so that people that might be sensitive to asthma or other things can get warning levels. But the wind is mostly going this direction, so the volcanic gas goes this direction. When the trade winds shift and it starts moving, for example, to the, let's say to the west, a little bit north, that's when places like even like Honolulu can get gases coming over. But this is the current spot here.
That's how we also like when we are doing our emergency response and stuff. So if there's an ammonia leak, that's why there we have like windsocks, and it matters when the gas, if we have an ammonia leak, because depending on the wind direction, we'll decide where we will evacuate the whole site to. So, or all the people from the plant to, because ammonia is, just one, it's not good to breathe, obviously, and number two, if it catches fire, it's just gonna go boom. So, and it's gonna go in the direction in which it's blowing. So you want to keep your people away from, out of its way. So yeah, that's why I understand why they monitor the direction in which the wind blows, because if it starts going towards the actual habitat, there might be, as you said, people who have asthma, or it can cause acute poisoning also if it's high, if the gases are high enough, and parts per million. That's how you measure.
Absolutely. It. So, so this is showing, for example, some of the spots that because it can get up quite high. So when you look at some of the stuff going on here, we had moderate health levels down here because the general wind direction is going over this site, right? And you had a basic advisory where you saw right now about 25 micrograms per cubic meter. That's at the 2.5 level. You can get quite hazardous stuff if you're not careful. So if you're out in the field doing monitoring, we always have with us gas masks and respirators, and alarms. Right? These sensors that are sensing stuff. And when the alarm goes off, you put on your mask right away because the stuff is going, because the wind can change quite quickly.
Yes, quite quickly. Yes.
And you also have, you get near the spot, you'll have these suits, even though it's like 70% humidity. It can you need to put on fire retardant suits, even though climbing into a suit doesn't seem to be the nicest thing to do. But if you're really into a situation, you can get bad stuff. So like, for example, here's a case where there was a facility here downwind, and it got to the stage where you got into the caution level because of the set, and that can be moderately unhealthy, particularly for people that have respiratory problems. So they try to alert these people and tell people to go indoors.
Just
and so forth.
make sure you don't tell them to wear a mask.
Right. So orange is unhealthy for sensitive groups. Yes. And so what they would say for somebody who, let's say, is asthmatic or has pulmonary respiratory conditions, so they would say, go indoors. We have air filtration. Don't be outdoors at this stage. Right. To the point where it gets to unhealthy and then
deadly,
dangerous, and then you will croak stuff. But that's
especially when
you will croak.
Especially when humidity is high. If the humidity is high, so these ashes or these gases can get attached to your water vapors, water molecules, and if you inhale them like that, they stick inside your lungs and they can cause more problems. So, yep, that's why humidity levels also matter.
You're right, because the sulfur dioxide will get combined with water, and you'll basically have sulfuric acid in your lungs, which is not a good thing.
Yep.
Yikes.
Chemistry, everyone.
Yeah. So
you thought this was just about geology. No. We're talking about atmospheric pressure. We're talking about wind directions. We're talking to your local forecasters. We're talking about chemistry. Don't run on lava.
So here's the overlook currently with people there, and you can look down into the lava lake and see gooey bits and so forth. But you can see that the smoke, the gas, is basically heading off towards to the southwest. And they have monitor stuff, and they'll have little alarms like saying, hey, it's not as if you're going to instantly die unless you're right down there, right? But when it flips around, when the trade winds flips around and things starts blowing in a direction, then they'll have basically those stuff saying, hey, if you're sensitive to stuff, children, people with lung diseases, very old adults, active people.
So is there like a siren that you use, like a audio alarm, or is it like
there's at the south there's audio alarms that basically say when it gets to the unhealthy levels, right? And again, we're talking about
because for tornadoes you have like sirens, right? So I was guessing maybe for these type of events also you would have some sort of like audio alarms and audio systems.
Yeah, but when you're talking about 5 parts per million of dust, you're talking about really bad stuff. And again, that dust contains lots of dioxide and acid stuff. So there's a whole page about this sort of thing and what to do. When you come to the national park, they'll give you a brochure about how their stuff's staying safe. Again, it's not as if you're going to immediately drop dead, but it sort of says don't go jogging when the wind.
I have
a
question. Maybe we can do it next time. The White Island in New Zealand, the tragedy that happened?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Maybe we can discuss that a bit and from safety point of view. What could the signs that the tourists could have seen or the guides could have seen so they could have gotten people to safety? Because I think so we could, I personally feel a lot could have been done to get people to safety, and people would it's triggering stuff, I will warn you, because a lot of people who sustained injuries have sustained lifetime burns, high degree burns, if I might say. So if you want, Chesh, I don't know if you might be interested, maybe for the next episode we can talk about that, because that happened because the volcano erupted, if I'm not wrong, and then ash spewed, and that ash that spewed caused a lot of burns, if I'm not wrong. So do you think that's a good topic or next one, Chesh?
I think so.
Don't ask me. Landon's the one who knows this stuff.
I think So here's the thing. Let's look at the next 10 minutes. So here's what it looks like now. Let's do another 10-minute update. Let's see what happens. Loading. Yep. So now it's broken up a bit more. This is a little bit more oozing things. A little less going into here, right? And it's wonderful to watch. So again, it's very safe. You just it's like any kind of natural thing. You need to be respectful. So what about questions for stuff or
Vulnerable is telling us Amber Heard sucks. Okay, now next time, how sulfur dioxide can turn into sulfuric acid. They're making fun of how diverse the channel is.
Hey, come on, it's not boring.
There's I did ask a question to the chat, and I asked the chat if they've learned something today, and I gave them, yes, I've learned something, no, I haven't learned anything, no new things, but I liked it anyway, and yes, and I'm mad about it. So
Mad about it.
and listen, some people are very like adverse to being like, I didn't know that thing. Damn it.
Yeah. But see,
I mean, there's just been so much covered that, like, I don't even know what questions to even ask because, like, we just covered so much and it's so interesting. I almost need to mull it over for an hour and a half before I'll come up with any questions I didn't already ask.
I would encourage you to go and look at the Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and it'll talk about spots that are, you know, what's happening there and in the history and so forth. But again, this is a really nice national park. You can go to, small entrance fee. I would, if you want to stay, you can stay. You know, let's go back to the map. Where's the map? The map is not that map. The less. Yeah, if you look at the map here, and we'll zoom out a little bit.
So this map should be updated now, right? Because there's new activity.
Yeah, there'll be, yes. This was the June 21st map here. So you know, the Volcano Village has lots of B&Bs and nice hotels and really nice spots. You know, restaurants and other things there. But you can come and stay at Volcano House here. It's a lodge that goes back to the mid 1800s. Samuel Clemens, otherwise known as Mark Twain, actually stayed there as a guest and wrote the Roughing It. If you know about his writings, he wrote Roughing It at Volcano House, and describes in the 1830s the activities going on in there. He's quite a, you know, he's quite a writer, as you know, and so that's a spot you can stay at, Volcano House, and it's, you know, you can go and look at these overlooks here, and here, look down inside there very safely. There's a nice visitor center and those things, as well as other things to do in the community around here, and it's just about a 30-minute drive from Hilo. You can fly into Hilo, or if you fly into Kona, you have to about a 2-hour drive across the Big Island, but coming in on the towards Hilo.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Does the locals' descriptions of what they think is going on tend to match scientifically? So they might not know what words or what measurements mean what thing that precisely, but do they tend to have a pretty good feel for whereabouts the volcano's going to be at, or where it's headed, or they'll know what's going on without more inherently or intuitively?
Yes, to a certain extent. I mean, certainly they are also locals that are monitoring the data.
Of course,
but
yes,
also scientifically speaking, a lot of the words we have developed on volcanism are Polynesian Hawaiian.
Based on,
so we talk about
them.
Pohoihoi and A'a flows and so forth. Those are all names which, if you go to a place like Easter Island, they'll recognize those words because they're Polynesian words that describe their area. So they have lots of terms for rock and types of lava, not just lava and rock. They have lots of descriptive terms, old and new, that are also very much part of the scientific lingo. So we use now a lot of the terms from there. Certainly, Kilauea being one of the most well-monitored volcanoes in the world, start off by a person named Jagger, not that Jagger, but an even older Jagger, of over 100 and almost 110 years ago. He started a permanent station in this area right here, this little overlook. We saw those people in that other overlook spot. They're standing at this is the overlook where his observations post is, and they've had continuous monitoring of what Pele has done in the last 110 years now, I think, probably close to that. But as I say, it is a spot where you can talk to the park rangers, listen to the stories. There are trails you can hike in and see geothermal things, and you can come to the overlooks and see this area, right? And when you come in the nighttime and see these cameras at nighttime, and you'll see that glow coming here. It's not present now because of the daylight glare, but at night when the thing is off, you can see all the glow from this coming up from this large lava lake, and you can see the slow churns of things going in, and then something will break out and it's quite a spectacular thing. And as I say, those clones capture some really beautiful stuff about.
I'll just say this. Volcanoes are the real dragons of the earth. Fight me.
Who would fight you about that? Who wouldn't think that is in fact the case? Maanyaa, you said you had a question. I don't know if you managed to ask it or if you were waiting. So feel free.
So I'm just asking. So we see there's a lot more lava activity from last time when we saw Pele.
Yes. Yes.
And it's good in a way because you can see that new lava coming to the surface, because then you're not wondering where else it might be going. Is that what it is? Okay, good.
And the gas because it's in this pit, it tends to stay down there. It's hard for it to get up over. But at some point, this pit will rise up high enough that it'll start entering the tubes. But at that point, hopefully what we will see in earthquakes is we'll start to see more stuff. If the magma is cutting down here to come out to some spot, we'll start to see earthquake.
Yeah, because as the lava comes up, it's imposing more pressure downwards, also, isn't it? So
yes, and cracking rocks open and so forth, and gas starts flowing up. Right when you
so
there's all kinds of gas around
mass.
Here as well. Yes, tilts. The ground will tilt slightly. The temperature will change. The gas sensors will start showing little bits of stuff. Little cracks will start to get a little bit more warmer.
And
so
that's when you
saw.
And that's when you will start maybe going around the island and start looking for maybe if there's an outlet or somewhere, isn't it? So one last question. So the level of lava has increased from last time, isn't it? That's what you said. So
yeah, the lake level has risen. Also, the activity. Last month she was a little bit more sedate. Now she's a little bit more frisky, right? But that doesn't mean that
whiskey,
next month. It doesn't mean that next month it couldn't stop.
It's not tequila, Maanyaa.
Come on.
But meanwhile, they put monitors here. I mean, this particular thing, this instrument here is actually a magnetic thing to look for small changes in the magnetic fields. Because they've been noticing as rocks get strained and crushed, you get piezoelectric conditions of currents that change the magnetic spectrum very subtly.
Oh yeah.
Right? Because so this is a sensitive magnetometer putting into the ground.
So that would be because your lava consists of a lot of metals, isn't it? And when metals move and flow back and forth, they will cause change in magnetic fields, the piezoelectric current, those properties change. So that sensor will be, so based on that, you can kind of guess like what's the rate of flow and stuff. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And so we're trying to put a lot of sensors into the area in hopes to try to see well ahead of time when the eruption starts going. So when, because one of the questions is going to be, how long will the lava stay into this zone, right? And at some point, here you're zooming in, at some point in Maanyaa here, it's going to start, right? Because historically, that's what it does. It's not going to always stay here for the end of the universe, right?
Last time, we talked about how it was moving even like over miles or meters and meters and meters, kilometers, just from where the islands are located.
But even that's the hotspot underneath. But even more so, here this is not a case. But here's a case where they look for is here's an earthquake. These are going down the spine where that crack is. Right? And so as pressures here, this crack starts. We start seeing now. When magma starts moving, we'll see lots and lots and lots of. We'll see right.
Yeah.
Assumably, right. And so part of what you saw was people putting instruments out here. The other direction it can go is this way, because remember in that plot there is this huge swarm of quakes way down here.
Oh yeah.
Look at this huge swarm, right? This is that large number of quakes in this area. and these are deep quakes that are actually quite deep. That are coming up, because you look at these are way down in the set, and
the ocean, yeah.
and so there's lots of monitoring going around here to try to understand what's happening. And so but you can see there's this chain of stuff. What they're looking for is patterns. Again, you'll see when you come to next month, you'll begin to see the rhythm that Pele has, right? And when the rhythm keeps going, then you can say, well, it's probably stay the same. But when it changes rhythm, when something has abrupt change, they will say, okay, what's happening? Try to get an idea, because it might be the end of an eruption. It might be start a new eruption. It might be moving of stuff. You never know.
Well, we should probably start looking to wrap up soon. And I do want to notice that we didn't mention Landon's shirt for today.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Sorry, Trademark Canada.
Sorry.
So happy Canada Day, everybody out there. You got 4th of July coming soon. I don't know how celebratory Americans are feeling right now, considering the situation. But catch up with us tomorrow night to be able to talk about that a little bit more. We'll be talking about medical stuff. We'll be talking about political stuff. We'll talk about how that political stuff is affecting medical stuff as well as climate change stuff. There's a lot that's been going on, and I did want to wait a little bit before going live about it so we could kind of see a little bit of the fallout of the decision instead of just talking about the decision itself. So now we're starting to see some of the effects and the dominoes that are falling in place after that. After tomorrow, join me on, I believe, Monday. We'll be doing a little bit more art. So if you enjoy art and you're here for some, of that will be on Monday. As well, follow me on Twitter and stuff. You can keep in touch. Also, coming on the Wednesday is going to be our first DM interview with Sam from Roleplaying and Roleplaying. That's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to that, especially after watching Alexandria, the Calamity Unlimited. I'm just so excited. About that.
The next debate hub is going to be on the 9th, and it's going to be with Jeff and Egghead, and that's going to be about guns, so that's probably going to get a little bit political. It'll be one's from Texas,
shots fired.
I mean, really. And then we have another Goblin Lair coming up on the 13th with Trevor Vale, and I'm really, really excited for that one as well. So that is what is coming down the pipeline here. I am a busy boy. I'm in talks right now with David Silberman. He might or may not be coming on to talk about some of the stuff he's been working on. I'm in talks with a handful of people. I can't tell you all of the details, but and I do believe we're going to be doing another one of these at the end of August, so we can keep up and see what's changed, what we've learned. So make sure you took notes and screenshots so you can compare to next time. What do you guys got going on?
Me?
Yeah, shoot for me. What's happening?
Not much, but you'll see me tonight. Not tonight, sorry. On
Tomorrow.
the unnamed tavern. Sorry, my bad. And I'll have a few choice words to say about what's going on in the US. And if you want, you can catch up with my previous live stream that I did on Shesh's channel, where I revisited Michelle Dauber, who is still on a power trip, and
oh boy.
Yeah, I had a few choice words for her. So you can watch that if you want to, if you like to hear the drone of my voice. But so we're trying to keep up to date with a lot of people we have been covering in the last few weeks. So hopefully in the coming weeks we'll do that again. The Dumb Fact Friday, hopefully, if Shesh has time for it, because she's a busy bee right now.
I'm always a busy bee.
Which is good. Yeah,
there will be one next Friday.
Yeah, here we go. So, yeah, you can. I might be there. You can find me there. Or you can find me on Twitter if you want to have a chat with me. That's me.
Links below. Yep. Links in the visual. Landon, what are you up to?
Just as one question asked about, someone asked about Molokai, yes. Which is an island near Maui. In fact, I'll show you here this spot. Oh. This is where it is. It's a really nice agrarian island. One of the things that this island was known for is a leper colony. It had a historic leper colony there that was operated for a while. It has an interesting history that had over 8,000 people at one point. It's mostly now tourism, but it used to be very agrarian society. So there's nice little you see nice pictures of stuff when you go into the airport where they get friendly things.
Colorful.
And it really is. It's quite a beautiful.
I'm sorry.
Spot.
Did that just say? Post a nut coconuts. Post a nut coconuts. Post office.
Oh my god.
Yes, you can post a coconut
Oh
to
my
this one.
It's like
god.
mailing a potato, but it's a coconut.
Yes. Yes,
Nice.
yes, it's fun. It's a fun spot. So I would encourage you to that there are places if you go to Hawaii, don't go to Honolulu, don't go to Waikiki, go to a place where there's actually real people and real society.
And you'll actually get to
spots
explore and learn something and
yes,
enjoy the culture.
yes.
Don't be a dick.
Yes, and that's what I say. So so I have working on some technical projects, doing a lot of coding. I'm working on some other items for travel. I'm going to be traveling to Central Europe in August for a friend. One of my former interns is getting married, and I'm going to go to a local village and see a authentic wedding in spots.
Awesome.
But that'll be a fun little experience for that, and get to touring around. Apparently, their tradition, rather than them going on a honeymoon, they take all their friends around and tour the place, right? So I get that their tradition. So they said, "Hey, come over here, and then you can join our basically our wedding party as we tour around the area for 2 weeks." So I'll be in various parts of Central Europe. We won't go too near a certain something or other, but it'll because we'll be in another spot. But we'll try to avoid. It's safe. It's safe. It's actually quite safe. It's even.
Landon says that, and then he gets attacked by pirates and shot at. Like
it actually is safe, considered safer COVID wise than even Canada at the moment. So
it's safe relative to Landon.
Yeah, and by the way, as well. Speaking of Canada, I got my Nexus Pass approved. So it should show up in this month sometime, and I'll be able to drive or walk across the border with impunity after I fill out my ArriveCAN. Because to go to Canada, you've got to fill out the ArriveCAN thing. After you do that, and then you can go all across and sing. So
nice.
So Jeff, my question for you is, what's the first thing when I cross the border I should buy? What would you recommend?
Where are you crossing the border at?
Somewhere.
Are you like in British Columbia?
Yes, British Columbia.
Province is close enough. Weed. British Columbia is like known for having good weed, so I would recommend hitting a weed store.
Look at Landon.
Well, I would say that actually that's an interesting thing, because when you apply for this Nexus Pass, you are getting both Canadian and American approval. Right? And so you go to the station, apply in person, you go to a station, there are two people, right? And an American, they ask questions, and the Canadian ask questions, and they kind of go back and forth to sort of check you to see, ask you the same question to see, can you remember your birth date? And can you tell me about where you're born? And they ask you questions to make sure your veracity of things.
Yeah.
And we got to the stage where they said, okay, so in the last 15 years, you've been to the list of the countries. And they kind of stopped and said, can you tell me some more of those countries?
Uh-oh.
And I started listing more countries. There have been a lot of countries. And then at some point, they said, well, is there anything missing? And so, well, yes, there is something missing. The Canadian application, I said, I don't mean to be critical, but the Canadian application doesn't allow me to list Antarctica because it's not a country.
Right.
But the president says, well,
Landon's just throwing shade.
And American said, well, it's a continent. And I said, well, so is, and then the Canadian says, well, so is Australia, and they get a illustration. You look at them saying, you're right.
No wonder Landon gets shot at.
They noticed in my passport this stamp.
Yeah.
But I hadn't listed that country.
And they were like, well, why didn't you list that? And you're like, you won't let me.
And so they said, well, this is a very good thing. I'll take it up with my supervisor to make sure that those people that they said, because she corrected the American to say, we refer to these as locations.
Right.
So, yes, you've been to Western Sahara, even though Morocco said it's theirs, right? So right. An example, so they have locations, and so they should list Antarctica's location in case you go there. So,
I mean, if it gets stamped, it should count. So, all right, my other recommendation is BC is also really well known for its art schools. So I would recommend checking out the local artistry, because there's going to be like a lot of newer artists that are in the area because their universities do a lot of pottery. They do a lot of just traditional arts. They have like big old like kilns that are like made with clay that are very like traditionally made. So
yeah, I've heard at Abbotsford that there's some art only stuff you can go and see.
So if you don't want to get weed, you can probably find a good amount of. I would guess that there's probably a decent amount of interesting like hemp artistry.
But I'm told as well that there is a particular local delicacy, which is this sort of fish, the salmon that's been sort of roasted with a honey glaze on it. That's good to try, and such. Check out
the local cuisine. I don't know that much about BC cuisine. I could hit up a friend of mine. He's been there a good number of times.
Yeah, to see. But anyway, that'll be one of my things is to go across the border and experience that bit. And of course, when you have your interview, they talk to you about how to talk to customs people, and they say, don't be chatty, don't be friendly, don't offer information, don't tell us more than we have to know. But so for example, they came and said, they quiz you, right? They say, okay, let's say you are traveling to Canada and you're going to visit a friend and you want to give them a bottle of wine, and you're coming up to the border. What do you do? And I say, well, prior to that, I fill out my Arrive Can application. Say, very good. And said, and so I come to the station when they ask anything to declare. I say, yes, I have a bottle of wine. And they say, and then so they said, okay, what do you plan to do with this wine? I'm going to give it to my friend. They say, wrong.
Nope. Now you're importing
one.
Yeah.
So what you say is, you said, what you're supposed to say is, it's for personal use.
Yeah.
I said, now, we know
what are you going to do with it? Drink it.
Drink it.
Yes, it's personal use to drink it. And they said, it doesn't mean you can't be friendly and share it with people. But importing is different than, so you say it's for personal use, right? So when you bring wine back from Canada, because you said you go there Canadian wine, what do you tell the person? So this wine is for my personal use.
I'm going to drink it.
And so forth. Now they also said be very careful about, because there are things that are legal in BC and things legal in the state of Washington, but aren't legal at the border.
Right.
And they said, and we have lots of sensing stuff and sniffing stuff. So they said, we recommend you not use any hand creams, because some hand creams have herbal things that might mask as, and therefore cause it to have to pull you over and do more detailed search. And that wastes our time and makes you unhappy. So don't bring over hand cream. So it was all very, very interesting.
All travel tips with Landon. You ever want to go anywhere, you ask Landon. Landon will know the answer.
Yay.
All right, let's get out of here, everybody. Like, subscribe, become a member and a Patreon. There's all kinds of good stuff coming down the line. You also get access to stuff early, as well as the Discord. So there's lots of stuff going in there. I think Nikki's freaking out over there right now. Yeah. But we will see everybody tomorrow. Have a good day.
Happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day. Bye.
Bye.